Most tourists see Buckingham Palace as sacred ground, guarded by disciplined soldiers who never waver. But Tyler Maxwell, a wealthy young American, thought differently. Arrogantly convinced that money could buy anything, even dignity, he brazenly attempted to bribe a royal guard in front of dozens of shocked tourists. Yet what Tyler didn't understand was that honor and duty have no price tag, and his attempt would land him not in luxury, but in cuffs. It was a crisp, sunlit afternoon in London, and Buckingham Palace shone brilliantly, drawing crowds of tourists from all corners of the globe. Visitors smiled, laughed, snapped photos, and marveled respectfully at the disciplined royal guards, standing proud and motionless at their posts, symbols of honor and tradition. But among the respectful masses was Tyler Maxwell, a 26-year-old heir to a New York real estate fortune. Tyler was used to getting what he wanted whenever he wanted it. With perfectly tailored designer clothing, expensive sunglasses, and a confident smirk, he moved through the crowd with an air of superiority. Tyler wasn't impressed by history, tradition, or discipline. To him, everything and everyone had a price. Even here, in front of Buckingham Palace, he believed money could buy anything, even the loyalty and discipline of a royal guard. With him were three equally wealthy friends, laughing and joking, loudly boasting about their weekend in London. Tyler eyed the nearest royal guard, who stood proudly near his guard post, utterly still, eyes locked straight ahead, dressed in the famous scarlet jacket and black bearskin hat. Tourists snapped respectful photos from a distance, admiring the soldier's discipline. Tyler chuckled dismissively, shaking his head. Ridiculous, like statues and silly hats. What a joke. His friend Lucas laughed uneasily. Dude, they're just doing their jobs. They never move. Tyler's eyes narrowed, his smile widening into an arrogant grin. Everyone moves for the right price, my friend. Watch this. Lucas looked worried, glancing around nervously. Tyler, maybe this isn't a good idea. Ignoring him, Tyler pulled a thick wad of British pounds from his jacket pocket, deliberately holding it up so that nearby tourists could see. A few gasps rippled through the crowd as they realized what he was about to do. He strolled casually toward the royal guard, waving the money arrogantly, loudly proclaiming to anyone listening, £500 says I can get this toy soldier to abandon his post. Instantly, phones turned toward him, recording his every move. Murmurs spread rapidly among the crowd. Tyler reached the guard, standing only inches away, holding up the money obnoxiously close to the guard's face. Hey, buddy, take a break. £500. 5 minutes away from this stupid post. Easy money. The guard didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't move a muscle. He stared resolutely ahead, dignity and discipline unwavering. Tyler's smile faded slightly, annoyance flickering across his face. He raised his voice even louder, addressing the watching tourists. See? He thinks he's too good for money. Maybe he thinks he's special. An elderly British man stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Young man, these soldiers represent our nation. Show respect. Tyler turned sharply, smirking dismissively at the older man. Old man. Money is respect. Watch and learn. The crowd's whispers grew louder, filled with disapproval, anxiety, and curiosity. Lucas tugged at Tyler's sleeve. Dude, seriously, just leave him alone. Tyler jerked his arm away, his voice rising arrogantly. Relax, Lucas. I'm making a point. Everyone has a price. Then, staring directly at the guard's impassive face, Tyler arrogantly flicked through the bills, raising his voice mockingly. £1,000! Right here. All you gotta do is move one step. The guard remained absolutely motionless, dignity intact, ignoring Tyler as though he didn't exist. The crowd watched, stunned, some shaking their heads, others muttering angrily. No one supported Tyler's antics. His face flushed, irritation creeping in. Seriously? You think you're better than me? Tyler sneered angrily, money still clutched in his fist. He took another step forward, his arrogance transforming into outright contempt. "We'll see about that." Unbeknownst to Tyler, a Metropolitan Police officer nearby had already taken notice, eyes narrowing sharply as he began moving toward the unfolding scene. Tyler Maxwell, utterly oblivious to his approaching downfall, was seconds away from learning a lesson no amount of money could ever erase. Honor and dignity were priceless, and mocking them would come with consequences he'd never forget. Tyler's face twisted into a frustrated scowl as the Royal Guard remained utterly impassive, eyes locked straight ahead, unflinching in the face of the blatant disrespect. His friends shuffled awkwardly, glancing around at the increasingly irritated crowd of tourists, some of whom openly muttered their disapproval. Determined to prove his misguided point, Tyler raised his voice, waving the cash more obnoxiously. "Come on, soldier boy. It's just one step. Easiest £1,000 you'll ever make. Are you really this uptight?" The guard, disciplined and dignified, continued to ignore him completely. Even the towering black horse beneath him stood statue still, unmoved by Tyler's attempts at provocation. Behind him, Lucas nervously whispered, "Bro, just stop. People are filming." Tyler shot him a glare, voice dripping with arrogance. "Good, let them film. Let everyone see how stubborn this fool is." Nearby, an elderly British woman stepped forward from the crowd, eyes flashing with anger. Her voice was sharp, powerful, and carried clearly. "That's quite enough. This soldier has more dignity in his silence than you have in your entire body." The crowd erupted in applause and approving murmurs, smartphones capturing the encounter from every angle. Tyler, visibly angered by the sudden rebuke, turned his sneer toward the woman. "Mind your own business, Grandma," he snapped rudely. The woman didn't flinch. She stepped even closer, her voice firm and unwavering. "You're embarrassing yourself and disrespecting every person here." The crowd's murmurs grew louder, echoing agreement. Someone shouted, "Show some respect." Another voice joined, "Money can't buy everything, you fool." Tyler flushed crimson, feeling his carefully constructed image slipping away rapidly. He turned back to the guard, desperation now tainting his arrogance. He waved the money again, inches from the guard's face, practically shouting, "Just one step, damn it! Why won't you move?" But the guard didn't so much as blink. His discipline was unwavering, his dignity unbreakable. At that exact moment, unseen by Tyler, the crowd parted slightly to reveal a stern Metropolitan Police officer rapidly approaching, his face serious, his eyes locked onto Tyler with quiet fury. A nearby tourist whispered loudly enough for all to hear, "This idiot's about to get exactly what he deserves." Tyler didn't hear it. He was blinded by anger, embarrassment, and the frustration of rejection. With one final, impulsive gesture, Tyler reached forward and rudely placed a handful of bills onto the guard's shoulder, balancing them mockingly atop his scarlet uniform. The crowd gasped collectively. The older British woman covered her mouth in shock. Lucas and his other friends stepped back in horror, distancing themselves instantly. The guard, disciplined to his core, didn't move, didn't even flinch. His dignity and honor remained perfectly intact, even in the face of Tyler's ultimate insult. Tyler stepped back, laughing bitterly. "There, free money, you happy now?" But no one else was laughing. The tourists were appalled, phones filming furiously. Whispers filled the air, every word directed against Tyler. Disgusting. No respect. Absolute disgrace. Then, cutting sharply through the stunned silence, the police officer's deep voice boomed loudly and commandingly from mere feet away. "Step back from the guard immediately, and put your hands where I can see them." Tyler spun around, suddenly realizing just how serious this situation had become. But by now, it was far too late for apologies or explanations. The consequences of his arrogance were already barreling toward him, unstoppable, undeniable, and thoroughly deserved. Tyler froze in place, his face draining of color as the officer's commanding voice echoed loudly across the plaza. The previously amused and arrogant smirk faded, replaced by an expression of shocked disbelief. Every tourist, now silent and tense, turned their phones toward him, capturing every moment. The Metropolitan Police officer closed the distance swiftly, eyes cold and focused, voice sharp and authoritative. "Step back from the guard immediately. Hands where I can see them." Tyler blinked, momentarily stunned, his arrogance replaced by a flicker of panic. He raised his hands awkwardly, taking a shaky step back from the guard, leaving the humiliating stack of cash still resting mockingly upon the soldier's shoulder. "Wait, hold up, officer. This is just a misunderstanding," Tyler stammered nervously, forcing a strained smile. "Just a little joke. No harm done, right?" The officer's expression remained firm, unwaveringly serious. "Harassment of a serviceman and public disrespect are not jokes. Move back now." The crowd watched eagerly, murmurs rippling quietly through the tourists. Someone whispered loudly, "He thought he could buy a soldier's dignity. Now he's paying the price." Tyler, sensing the judgment surrounding him, glanced desperately toward Lucas and his other friends for support. They avoided his gaze entirely, retreating deeper into the crowd, distancing themselves from the unfolding humiliation. Tyler's voice grew louder, tinged with frustration and embarrassment. "Look, I'll just take the money back." "No," the officer cut him off sharply. "You won't touch him again. Hands behind your head now." Tyler swallowed hard, eyes darting around nervously. "Are you kidding me? You can't be serious. I was just trying to prove a point." The officer's voice was ice cold. "Your point is irrelevant. You ignored warnings, harassed a soldier, and showed flagrant disrespect in public." Tyler, unwilling to back down fully, laughed nervously, desperation clear. "Come on, man. Let me just apologize, all right? No need for cuffs." "Final warning," the officer stated flatly, stepping closer, his patience entirely depleted. "Hands behind your head." But Tyler, impulsive and reckless, angered by embarrassment, decided on a disastrous move. With sudden arrogance, he snapped at the officer defiantly. "You know what? You Brits are ridiculous. I didn't hurt anyone, so back off." A collective gasp swept through the crowd. A mother pulled her child close, whispering sternly, "See? That's how you never behave." The officer didn't hesitate, moving swiftly forward, seizing Tyler's arm firmly, his voice calm yet filled with unmistakable authority. "That's enough. You're under arrest for disorderly conduct, harassment, and failure to comply." The tourists erupted with applause and cheers, loudly supporting the decisive action. Tyler's face flushed with humiliation, his earlier arrogance melting away as cold metal handcuffs clicked firmly around his wrists. He stammered weakly, "Wait, please, you don't understand who I am." The officer's voice remained cool, clear, and unaffected. "Your identity doesn't matter. Respect does." With Tyler securely restrained, the officer gently removed the disrespectful stack of cash from the guard's shoulder, handing it to a nearby colleague as evidence. The guard himself remained impressively motionless, dignity untouched, honor intact. As Tyler was turned toward the waiting police car, the elderly British woman who had confronted him earlier stepped forward once more. Her eyes held quiet satisfaction as she spoke firmly. "You wanted to buy dignity. Well, dignity can't be bought. It can only be earned." Tyler lowered his head in shame as laughter, cheers, and judgment surrounded him. He'd crossed a line no amount of money could ever fix, and now he would face consequences far heavier than any wallet could carry. Tyler's arrogant facade had completely shattered. His face burned red with humiliation as the officer guided him forcefully toward the waiting police car, cuffs tight around his wrists. The same crowd he'd arrogantly sought approval from moments before now openly mocked him, their cheers ringing painfully in his ears. As he stumbled forward, someone shouted loudly, "Money can't buy class," prompting laughter and applause from dozens of bystanders. Every step he took was captured on phones, his humiliating downfall instantly streaming live across the globe. The officer's grip was firm and professional, his voice calm yet commanding. "You thought your wealth made you untouchable? You're about to learn differently." Tyler, desperate and embarrassed, tried one last plea for sympathy. "Look, this is a huge mistake. I'll pay a fine or something. Just don't embarrass me like this." The officer paused briefly, turning Tyler around to face him directly. His expression was utterly serious, eyes piercing. "You embarrassed yourself. You disrespected a soldier, mocked our traditions, and thought your money placed you above the law. Your fine won't fix arrogance." Tyler opened his mouth, about to protest further, but the officer spun him around sharply, pressing him against the cold metal of the police car's door. Tyler's face hit the surface with a dull thud, prompting a fresh wave of cheers from the watching tourists. The elderly British woman, still standing proudly nearby, nodded in approval, murmuring loudly enough for Tyler to hear clearly, "Instant justice well served." His friends, once so eager to bask in his wealth and bravado, now stood quietly at the back of the crowd, avoiding eye contact, unwilling to share his disgrace. Tyler's heart sank further. Even his supposed allies had abandoned him, leaving him alone in this painfully public humiliation. As the officer opened the car door, preparing to place Tyler inside, Tyler caught one final glimpse of the royal guard he'd disrespected. The soldier remained exactly as before, disciplined, dignified, completely unaffected by the chaos Tyler had created. For the first time in his life, Tyler felt deep shame. His wealth, his arrogance, his privilege, all meaningless now. The guard's silent, unwavering dignity had defeated him completely. As he was placed firmly inside the vehicle, Tyler heard the door slam shut behind him, sealing his disgrace. Inside the police car, Tyler sat silently, humiliation sinking deeper with every passing second. He knew that in mere moments, his foolish actions would be splashed across headlines, memes, and social media worldwide. And there, in the quiet solitude of his disgrace, he finally understood the lesson he'd stubbornly refused to learn. Money might buy luxury, influence, even temporary respect. But true honor and dignity were beyond purchase, and disrespecting those values carried consequences far greater than he ever imagined. Tyler sat alone in the stark, quiet confines of the police station, staring blankly at the pale walls surrounding him. The muffled sounds of distant footsteps and quiet conversations only deepened his isolation. For the first time in his privileged life, Tyler Maxwell felt utterly powerless. He rubbed his wrists absent-mindedly, still feeling the phantom pressure from the handcuffs, a lingering physical reminder of his humiliating downfall. Every second replayed itself vividly in his mind. His arrogant smirk, the mocking laughter, the cash on the guard's uniform, the officer's firm grasp, and finally, the cold metal cuffs locking around his wrists. With a slow exhale, Tyler lowered his head into his hands. His wealth, his connections, his bravado, all had been stripped away in mere seconds. His arrogance had cost him far more than money. It had cost him dignity, pride, and respect, qualities he now realized couldn't be purchased or faked. The door to the small room opened gently, and Lucas stepped inside, glancing around awkwardly. He closed the door softly behind him, avoiding Tyler's gaze. Tyler finally looked up, a shadow of embarrassment crossing his face. "Lucas, Lucas raised his hand, stopping him. His expression was both disappointed and weary. "Tyler, you went way too far this time. You embarrassed everyone, yourself, us, your family." Tyler sighed heavily, his voice quiet. "I know. I wasn't thinking." Lucas shook his head slowly. "That's the problem. You never think beyond your ego. Not everyone and everything can be bought. Respect and dignity. You can't just wave cash around and demand it." Tyler remained silent, absorbing his friend's words, each syllable stinging but truthful. He had no argument, no excuse, only the painful recognition of his own flaws. Lucas placed Tyler's wallet and phone on the table gently. "They said you're free to go after paying the fine. Your father already called. He handled everything." Tyler felt his face flush again, embarrassment compounded by shame. He knew his father wouldn't yell or rage. Instead, he'd quietly remind Tyler how deeply he'd disappointed him, which somehow always felt worse. Lucas stood, looking sadly at Tyler. "You know, that guard, he never moved, never flinched. You thought you could buy his dignity, but all you did was sell your own." Lucas turned and exited quietly, leaving Tyler alone once again. Minutes passed slowly as Tyler sat in silence, reflecting deeply. He thought of the guard, still standing proudly, honor and discipline untouched by arrogance or money. He thought of the elderly woman's words, "Dignity can't be bought. It can only be earned." Finally, Tyler rose to his feet, gathering his things. As he stepped outside, he felt a strange sense of calm clarity. The world had taught him a harsh but necessary lesson today, one that would linger far longer than embarrassment. He walked quietly down the street, the evening air cool against his face. Tyler Maxwell now understood clearly what his arrogance had blinded him from seeing. Money could buy luxury, power, even influence, but genuine respect, honor, and dignity were beyond any price tag. And for the first time he realized he'd have to earn those qualities the hard way.